Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, welcome to Uncommon Sense. I'm Junia and thank you for joining us today. My guest is Brenda Ault. Brenda is a private English as a second language tutor, an educator and director of the Cope with English Nature Fab Camp. Welcome, Brenda. This is a field I know nothing about, English as a second language. Tell me about that and the camp.
Well, the camp is through Cope with English. I am the director of the camps, but I'm not the owner of Cope with English. I'm a private tutor who contracts to Cope with English. And English as a second language targets the international families who live in Midland, be it through Dow Chemical, or just they moved to Midland for personal reasons or family reasons. And their first language is not English. And there are many programs in Midland for children in the summer, but what I realized is nothing that specializes in this niche of children who don't use English as their first language. And I mainly wanted to have it outdoors in nature too. And it actually is a nature camp, but the first campers called it Fab Camp. Because their names were Franco and Abril and Brenda, and so it became Fab Camp.
And I bet it is.
It is. It's really fun to bring children into nature, especially when a lot of these children come from very large cities around the world. And they have, so it's not only the contact with English and that connection, but I'm trying to connect them with nature because they don't have a lot of contact with nature in the large cities they come from.
I can relate to that, being born in New York. Do you group them by age or by ability? How would you sort out the applicants?
So far, we haven't had a large group. We keep it very small. That's part of it. We like it to be a small one-on-one almost setting. This year it may grow. It may be a little larger because of some advertising. But we don't necessarily divide them based on their English levels, because it's very interesting. I saw this play out last summer. I had a boy who just arrived from China, and his English was acceptable, but very beginner. And another boy who's lived all over the world and has very good English. He's from Mexico. And they helped each other because the little boy, Sergio from Mexico, knew how it felt to be in a new place and not speak the language for the very first time. And it was a blessing to my heart to see those two different levels and ages, not just ESL level, but also the ages, come alongside each other like brothers.
And help each other.
Yeah, it's really a wonderful thing to see the kids reaching out to one another.
And how long is the camp in the summer?
Well, this year we have a week-long camp from 8:30 to 5:30 in June.
Yes.
Another one in early July, one in mid-July that will be for preschoolers called Nature and Me, A to Z. And then in August, we will have an official Fab Camp that will be a little different than Nature Camp because those children went to Nature Camp last year. So they want a new experience this year. So it's going to be, I'm calling it an eclectic enrichment camp.
Oh, nice. What are you thinking of having in it?
Oh, I have it all laid out.
I bet.
We have slimy science.
Oh, cute.
We have drama for divas and dummies. We will have Log Cabin 101, where we will actually have class in a real full-size hand-built log cabin. And we're having sustainability and recycling, art appreciation, and music appreciation.
Oh, that's really amazing. Are you going to teach anything about American history?
Log Cabin 101. We're going to focus on the pioneers.
Oh, lovely. My grandmother was a pioneer, and my grandfather were pioneers. So,
okay.
sort of, I lived their life through their stories. So, and what got you to this? You used to be in the office and very good with computers and math.
When my first child was born, he had speech impediments. And many people encouraged us to get help for him. But we really couldn't afford expensive doctors. And so I thought, I can teach him how to speak the letter sounds. I can teach him phonics. I can do this. And I'm happy to say I did do it. He was very bright. He just couldn't speak clearly, and he couldn't enunciate the letter sounds. But it introduced me to the phonics method. And by age 4, he was reading at a 4th grade level. Because
Congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. But he learned phonics when he was 2. And I'm sold on phonics and that method. So after that, I started private tutoring with other children, teaching reading, remedial reading, different things like that. And it just kind of snowballed. And then about 8 years ago, I was contacted by Cope with English. I had worked with her adopted grandson from Pakistan to teach him how to read in our phonics. And she asked me if I would work with 2 little Korean boys and teach them how to read. And from there, I got involved in ESL.
And I noticed that you've also taken classes and got certification. What do they actually teach you in those classes?
They teach a lot of, it's really focuses more on class instruction. And in Midland here, we do the more private one-on-one tutorials. But it was very interesting to learn that approach for a classroom. And I do use that a lot with the nature camps, of course, and the Fab camps. You know, a person who doesn't speak English has to learn everything. And usually when I get a lot of students, they are at a very beginner level. And people say, well, do you know Korean or do you know Portuguese? And I said, no, they have to learn English. And I found if you can speak the language, sometimes that's a crutch for them because you start speaking to them in their language. So I don't have the benefit of that crutch. And so it's
But
really
I would imagine they all come from, or could come from, different cultures that play out in classroom behavior. Have you noticed that at all?
That's true, very true. Some of the Asian cultures don't really want a lot of touching and closeness by the teacher, but I touch them anyways because I hug them, because I love kids, and they respond well to that. It's just not what they're used to. Whereas the South Americans, they want to be embraced, and they're used to teachers being very warm and engaging. But I find that the children respond well to me. I think they just, my own children call me the Mother Earth.
What a compliment.
I don't know. I guess I just have this knack with kids, and I love kids, but I love the cultures. It's very interesting to learn about the cultures. I think I've learned as much as I've given back.
Now, what kinds of things have you learned?
I've learned that everyone in the world really is the same.
Oh, in what way?
We all need each other. We all need to be loved. We all love compassion and kindness, a warm heart. And I think the people who come here, they've left their families, their parents, their extended family, their friends. And I think when they come to Midland, they're looking for that person to connect with.
How lucky they are to have you.
I'm lucky to have them. My dream was always to travel the world and live with the people and not be in a hotel, but find out how people live. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I had 6 kids and I've lived in Midland all my life. And so I feel like the world has come to me.
It has.
Yeah.
Now, what age group are we talking about when you say they're not the same age, but they must be within some range?
Right. We say kindergarten through 6th grade. And then Nature and Me A to Z is for 2 to 4-year-olds, preschoolers. The Fab Camp is focusing maybe, I think it's 3rd grade through 7th grade, more getting to middle school.
So do you have assistants who do the teaching or help out? How do you train them?
That's a good question. We get together, we talk about what we're going to cover. The kids all have nature journals. And usually it's we talk about, we're going to talk about birds today, or we're going to talk about earthworms today. And they know the craft we're going to do. We always do something with food, like we make edible dirt, or we make bird nests. We picked strawberries and made strawberry jam, or we will peel apples with one of those apple peeler cores and make homemade applesauce. And so usually I can use the Cope with English other tutors, or I can hire college students. It's a lot like the SHARE program, where you have a college student and they come and they're your extra hands and feet. And mainly they have to love being with kids and love being outside, because all the classes are taught outside unless there's a thunderstorm.
So when you look to hire someone, what do you look for?
People who love children, and people who take directions well, and people who will just be warm and kind.
How can you tell if a person will take direction?
I can read people pretty well. But it's amazing. Sometimes the kids become more involved with the students, with the college students, than they do with me. I saw that last year. I saw one boy really attached to one of the college students. And you don't know why. Did he leave a cousin or someone in China that he admired and loved, and this was the replacement? So it's really great to see the relationships that form with the kids and with the counselors.
Well, clearly you love children, your own or others. What was your family like growing up? Did you grow up with many siblings?
I have one older sister, but we were raised on a farm, and we spent a lot of time outside. And I think that's what's so important about these summer camps for kids, is children just don't spend a lot of time outside in the green spaces anymore. I think that's a lost art, almost.
Did you have farm responsibilities?
Yes, I did.
What were some of them?
I took care of the chickens. I also, in order to buy a car, when I was 15, I raised 32 baby calves from 3 days old to a certain weight. I don't know, my dad helped with that, but I fed them in the morning and he fed them at night. We had pigs, we had horses.
Did you ever go through the 4-H program?
Yes, I did.
But what did you think of that, and which slice of it?
I didn't do the animals.
Right.
I did the projects like electricity and mammals. And Junia, that's an interesting thought, because in a way Fab Camp is a little bit like 4-H. Because in 4-H you learn about mammals, and then you do a project, and there's a lot of hands-on, and it's getting kids in touch, with that element that they may not always have access to, and the creative side of kids, the curiosity, the creativeness. Right. So yes, 4-H is a wonderful program, great program.
One of the things I liked about the farm experience, that if you have parents who will teach you, whether it's drudgery or not, you learn self-discipline and timeliness and responsibility, and that you're part of the team. And I don't know what else replicates that for kids who don't grow up on a farm. I mean, I didn't. I grew up in the city. I'm one of the people you're talking about. Everything was great. There was a tree in Central Park. That was about it. Except I had family in Oklahoma, and that's where my outdoor experience really blossomed. But that's really, now will you ever incorporate farm experiences? I'm like planning your program for 2 years from now.
Oh, well, I do have friends who have milk cows and things like that. I don't have animals other than cats and dogs on my property. The main problem would be transportation.
Oh, yeah.
But we do have a pet tadpole during nature camp.
Oh,
and the kids get to sketch him every day, and we name him. He's our mascot.
Oh, so cute.
And every day they come and they say, oh, his leg is gone, or look at his tail. And it's really amazing how he became, like their pet. And by day 5, they actually would hold Quasimodo, was his name, Quasimodo in their hand. And
unforgettable experience.
Each kid gets to plant their own tree on my property. They have their own fish to watch. We dig for worms, and we put them in a 2-liter pop bottle with the label torn off so they could watch them tunneling every day. And so they really have ownership to the earth. But
when you were
not
raising your
animals.
children, did you do projects like that with them?
With my own children or when I was a child?
No, well, with them. Were you to the children, to your children?
Yes, we did. We did a lot of that type of hands-on learning and just nature sketching. I had a daughter who didn't really like to write, but she loved to draw. So she would go outside and sketch nature. And then my firstborn loved to write, so he would write about nature. We memorized poems about nature, and we just tried to pull all of the learning and focus it around the outdoors, because we all love the outdoors. And, 3 of my kids who are married wanted to get married on our property. So I think that tells you how much they loved.
Great memories.
experience,
Were your
yeah.
parents that attentive?
No.
I don't think they
But I
time.
had a wonderful place to play. I had a swing, and I had my dog, and it was a safe place. And being outdoors, I think kids are healthier. And in this day and age, with sustainability and the environment, I think for kids to fully appreciate that as adults, they have to have some connection with the natural world as children. Or when they become adults, I don't think they can fully appreciate the concept of sustainability and environmental issues. And I mean, it's amazing. Some kids are afraid of bugs. They run when they see an insect.
How do you handle that?
We just, eventually, they are picking them up. I remember the first year Franco was afraid to touch the earthworms that we dug up. But a little bit later, after he saw us handling them and there was nothing to fear, they lose that fear, and then he wanted to dig more. So, and I think there's a little bit of the modeling. He sees the other kids, a little bit of positive peer pressure. Oh, if they can touch a worm, I can touch a worm. So, and we had a boy who said, I've never played badminton outdoors. That's the other thing. We play some gross motor skills, some big group activities outdoors.
Yeah.
And they love that element too, the outside play.
When we're talking about what children could benefit from, I can see how keenly you believe in the outdoors and interaction, and also personalizing to each child, at least from your own family. Did you ever have a pet with your children? What did you have?
We had 2 pot-bellied pigs.
Oh my gosh.
We had
How'd you come to have those?
We bought them in Florida and brought them home.
I have only read about those.
It was fun
Why was it fun?
because they were like dogs.
They could be potty trained?
No, they weren't in the house. They were outdoors. But for instance, when my son was maybe 3, we have a small pond in the yard, and he was squatted down looking at the fish. And Frankie was the male pot-bellied pig. We watched him run from behind and push Alex right into the little pond. And I mean, it was shallow, but he was shocked. And I think Frankie had fun.
They played.
Right.
Do you think animals teach children anything?
Oh, yes.
What do you think they teach, learn from it?
I think they teach them responsibility, not only that we have toward the animal, caring for the animal, but also the animals care for their young.
Yeah.
And they play with each other. Right now I have 4 cats, and it's so fun to watch them out the window just running from each other and playing and climbing trees. And so I think we can learn a lot from the animal world, the way mothers care for their babies and love them.
I don't have a dog at the moment. Everyone who knows me knows I've been talking about I can't have it right now. But I always like their energy. You can tell if they're in the house or not. Yeah, and my daughter's dog is currently part-time with us, and it just changes the dynamics of the feel of the house. Well, clearly, Brenda, you are born to teach. You are born to have imagination and apply it in a way that children can grow into possibilities they never even thought they could consider because they didn't know about it, in part because they were in the city. So do you see yourself taking this to a broader or a different way, or to a different age group, or something after school, perhaps during the year?
It's changing this year. There's more camps. One way I've changed it a little bit is one of my students, an adult from Brazil, she's an artist. Her name is Z Moreira, and she has artwork all over Midland right now. She's had it at the hospital, and she had it at the library on display. And so I asked her if she would come to one of the camps and teach the children some painting with nature, painting of nature. I have another woman who would like to teach a class on ecology and recycling. So what I have done, how I see it changing a little bit, instead of just me presenting to the children, now I'm having my students, my adult students, become camp teachers too.
Oh,
and
I like
and
that.
I think that's really good for them too, because it helps their English. They have to communicate to children from all different countries and cultures and languages, and getting in front of people and speaking. And I've encouraged Z to teach classes to adults, and she's a little hesitant. So I'm hoping the next step for her will be from children.
Your concern for the children just comes through. That show love, see what do I want to say, potential, be patient, be upbeat yourself. When I was growing up, they didn't talk environment. They talked flowers, they talked trees, they talked forests and things like that. And I always thought they were magical, sometimes frightening at night, but magical in every way. What got you interested so much in environmental considerations?
Well, I think for the children, it's because I had the opportunity to grow up on a farm and experience that element. But I also married a forester and a wildlife biologist.
Oh,
So he has taught me a lot, and has taught me to appreciate the natural world more, and to know, understand how do you identify a white pine, our state tree. And when I hear a bird call now, I know what bird that is. So he really taught me a lot.
he could be a teacher.
He actually does join the camp at the end of the day. He comes home from work, and we call it Ask the Expert. So any questions that have arisen earlier in the day that I couldn't answer, and we didn't want to take time to Google the answer, we ask the expert. And really the kids loved that, because I would say, that's a good question, write it down and we'll ask the expert. Because then they had to write their question down, and when he came home, he was not quite as friendly with them as I was, because he wasn't there with them all day long. So he was this different person now that I have to talk to. I have to think about my question and then ask a follow-up question, and he would love to take them outside too and train them and teach them what he knew about the trees or the flowers or the snake they found. That's the other thing, you have to be very willing to switch gears. We're going to have a unit today on flowers, but they find a snake.
Yes.
So that's what's really burning right then, that they want to know about. They don't want to learn about flowers. They want to examine and learn about snakes. So you have to be very spontaneous with kids.
Is it the age group that would be interested in bird sounds, the sound birds make, or is that too amorphous at the moment? And
no,
they
no.
need, things they can hold. And
No, we have some quiet, reflective time every day. They each get to choose their favorite tree. And so they go for about 15 minutes to their favorite tree, and they sit under it and use their senses. What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you see? So they are listening for that type of they're listening for that in the environment too, not just what can I touch.
And when they have a disagreement, how do you handle that?
I haven't had that ever
That's a
happen.
compliment to you.
Oh,
I love some of the things. Are they taught in nature camps, generally speaking, what you're talking about? I love the idea of the 5 senses, and I like the idea of what you sort of feel. And mostly I like it being aware. When I grew up, my uncle was interested in Morse code, so he built a big, it looked like an oil well, in the backyard, and he would go up, 100 feet in the air, climbing. and do his Morse code. And that taught me more about the world, because he would say, well, I'm talking to people in, some country I didn't even know where it was, or Louisiana or someplace like that. And so I think sometimes teachers are random, like that. So I often think of him because during World War II, when the Japanese bombed Hawaii, he happened to be up there, and he was one of the people that was Morse coding, the news back east. So interesting. Well, I thank you for being here. I learned a lot about children and the camp, and I learned a lot about that necessity is a mother's invention. When your child couldn't and you couldn't afford it, you solved the problem. So one of the things I think we can take out of this is wherever you are, look at the problem, deal with it, make it happen, and do it in a continuous sort of, I don't want to say easy way, but with the idea that you are going to have success. And then when you feel called to teach or called to do anything, have the confidence to try it out a little, even though she didn't start. So anyway, thank you all. I will see you next week.
To contact Junia, send her an email at info@juniadoan.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadoan.com. Thanks for joining us. See you next time for Uncommon Sense with Junia Doan.
Local productions on QTV are made possible with support from viewers like you. Thank you.